Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards. Welcome to a new season of InFocus. InFocus is a weekly program where we take a closer look at what's happening within and across the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, your government. During the budget debate last month, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, announced a suite of incentives aimed at providing economic relief and empowering and supporting citizens and residents of the Federation. The Budget Boost Wallet, or BBW as it is commonly called, was one such initiative. On January 11th, 2025, we saw the official launch of the BBW and its dedicated website. This groundbreaking program is part of the government's ongoing commitment to providing economic relief, particularly to our most vulnerable households, ensuring that no one is left behind. Joining us today to discuss the BBW and the details surrounding it is Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natta. We'll also be joined a bit later by Azilla Clarke, Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. Stay with us as we delve into your government, your business.
Budget Boost Wallet is a strategic response to deal with the rising cost of living over which we have no control. This would be a strategic offering easy $1,500 to each qualified person over the next 6 months. And these are to individuals earning less than $5,000 per month.
Welcome back to InFocus, and allow me once again to welcome you to a new season of InFocus, where we trust that you would be entertained and enjoy all of the information that we will have for you, where we present a lot of interesting information with key government stakeholders. And one of them is here today with us, Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natta. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Ian, for having me on your first show for the new year. So happy new year to you, and all the best to your family and all the persons who are viewing and listening as well. All the best.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. So we jump right into it now. As mentioned, of course, Ms. Clarke will join us a bit later, but we want to talk about the Budget Boost Wallet. And I appreciate that you've been out and about doing some interviews, educating the public. Very important, so that they could understand what the initiative is and what's it intended to do. So we can probably start there. Take us a bit about behind the scenes. And of course, we appreciate that there is a secrecy of cabinet, of course, and we don't ask you to violate that. But give us a behind-the-scenes look of how the BBW came about.
So before the Prime Minister made his announcement, one of the things that we are constantly doing as a cabinet, outside of some of the more technical things like the submissions and memorandum that come to my office, is how can we improve the lives of our citizens here in St. Kitts and Nevis? How can we do some tangible things to alleviate any financial burdens that they may have? And so this discussion started well before the Prime Minister made his announcement, because it's an ongoing sort of thing that we do when we meet in cabinet and even outside of cabinet hours. And the thought was we are looking at the increasing costs of goods and services, food here in our federation, as it relates to the ongoing global inflation and the rising costs that are associated with that. And so, as you said, the Prime Minister announced a suite of initiatives, one being reducing the VAT rate from 17% to 13%. And the Budget Boost Wallet was an add-on to that, where we thought that one would be more directed to sort of our middle-income community and lower down to some of the most vulnerable households here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
All right, so What would you say are some of the prevailing factors? And you just hinted at it, of course, because it's an ongoing process. It's
Correct.
something that the cabinet continues to look at, the policymakers. What were some of the prevailing factors that really stood out?
What really stood out to us is food costs, right? And we as a government have done quite a bit in terms of trying to mitigate the negative effects of the rising food costs. We appreciate that we do not produce a lot of the foods we eat, especially those that are processed foods. Of course, we can grow a lot of things here, and we do that. But the rising cost of food because of shipping costs, because of the ongoing conflicts, for example, between Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine being a major and world-leading provider of grain.
That's right. And
grain is the base of a lot of the goods that many persons consume, whether it's cereals or other foods processed foods that persons consume. So when we look at that and the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis is part of a global community, the impact of things that are far afield really affects us directly, and we try to educate the public about that as well. And so we've been making our rounds in the media and trying to let people know that this is not a local thing per se. We personalize things, of course. Mm-hmm. It's our context, and this is happening to me right now, and I need assistance and so on. But that this is not of our doing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. This is not the government's doing, but we are part of a global community, and when things happen further afield, it affects us negatively sometimes.
So the name Budget Boost Wallet,
yes.
Where did that come from?
So we've thought of many different things. I won't say pinpoint a person who necessarily did it, but we thought of something that could be catchy, one, but that describes what we want to do, and we really wanted to boost people's budget. We know persons budget for things in different ways and so on, but we really wanted to give a little boost to their wallets and their budgets as they go through, and focus especially on essential items, essential goods and services that we felt would help.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, in the graphic, the person would have seen, and the Prime Minister doing our infographics, he explained a bit about what it was for those who are listening on the radio or watching on television. Now, it's mentioned that $250, that is the figure that is being provided to persons for assistance, of course. It's important to mention that, and you have to be earning under $5,000. That's the threshold. How was the $250 figure determined, as well as the threshold?
Right. So we used quite a bit of metrics, right, to determine. We looked at also some of the other assistance programs that are already out there. LIFT, for example. We looked at the fact that we also have a food voucher program. We have a school uniform program, and so on. What we wanted to do is set up a temporary assistance program, which this program is, which is going to run for 6 months, from January to June of this year. And for example, LIFT has a threshold of you earning $2,500 or less to get a particular level of support. And we thought, yes, we're capturing that's part of the community, but there's a wider group up into the middle class, so to speak, that is also feeling the pinch. So how can we also assist them? So over the 6 months, we'll be giving each individual who qualifies, they have to be earning $5,000 EC or less. They'll be getting a boost in their wallet of $250 EC each month, leading to $1,500 over 6 months.
Right. Okay, and as you speak about the figures, of course, that government is assisting persons with, in terms of the vast number, and we'll get into it a bit later in terms of the social assistance programs that we have. It's an important discussion that we need to talk, and I want to bring in the PS now of social development, and that would be Azilla Clarke. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break to have Ms. Clarke join us on set.
Sure.
So if technicians can just run again the Prime Minister, the insert with the Prime Minister that we played at the opening, so that we can get Ms. Clarke in. We'll take a quick break, we'll be right back.
If you go to SKNIS and you say my bill is 120 and I want to pay my SKNIS bill, you don't have to lose all of your 250 for that month. And it'll back up. You can say, man, I can use 200 this month, let's 50 go over to the next month, so I got 300 there. You use it like cash, except you wouldn't have the cash in your hand and you would use it. So you cannot use it for alcohol, cannot use it for tobacco, or you cannot use it for, some cosmetic things. You want it to be used for essential things, your bills, your groceries, and so forth. And so what that would allow you to do is to save on all of these things, and then the money you have, you can use it for food to help to manage your buying of food.
Welcome back to InFocus, and we welcome to our conversation Azilla Clarke, Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. Ms. Clarke, we understand that you were a bit delayed, but we're certainly happy to have you with us.
Thank you so very much, Ian. Apologies to listeners and viewers.
Right. Okay, so let's jump right in, as we mentioned, in terms of the relationship between BBW and the role that the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs is playing.
Certainly. The Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs considers itself as the caring arm of the government. So whenever the government has initiatives that are about the empowerment of the people, we utilize our databases experience in order to lend support therein. So for this program, we serve as a part of the implementation arm. What we're doing is, of course, answering any questions or concerns, assisting persons with registration, as well as doing data mining to be able to speed track the registration of persons, because we already have wallet experiences to the Back to School initiative of Independence 40, and we used it for a school uniform assistance program last year. So to avoid the concern about registering again and again for public assistance programs or initiatives put on by the state, we're able to submit that information to fast track registration, because we already have most of that. And then, as indicated, at the end of it, of course, during it, we make sure that there's compliance issues, making sure that persons are getting, if anybody has registration or access challenges, answer all questions. And then again, based on the results, we're then able to analyze to advise the state if there are any policy or programmatic changes that needs to be made, so that we can keep the multiplier effect of these programs.
What went into the selection criteria of persons who would be eligible to receive?
I think, as Cabinet Secretary indicated, it's a boost for persons. So we have quite a bit of programs for who we call the most poor and vulnerable. And then there was a strategy to extend up to 5,000 to be able to capture those in the middle lower class, to be able to afford assistance there, because the program is designed for utilities and food, and those are considered a basket of basic needs. And so once the matrix and guidance was given, it was able to verify persons' earnings, because again, persons may have multiple employments, but it's as reported at Social Security. And again, it's an opportunity for Social Security to do compliance checks on persons, make sure that employers are feeding into the system what information is needed. So within that guidance provided and the criteria established, then now we're at the stage of implementation.
All right. And CAPSEC had wanted to jump into this question as well too. But what factors influence the decision to assist individuals rather than households?
So you're going to make me speak on behalf of the Prime Minister in a sense, right? So again, the Prime Minister is always in discussions with me in Cabinet. How can we empower our people, right? And that's on an individual level as well as globally as a nation. And so in terms of any particular factors, I'm not sure I can necessarily point to any particular factors, except for the ethos, I think, of the Prime Minister, which is imbued, I think, in the cabinet members. Every day when we are doing things, is it helping people? How can we really help people? How can we empower people? How can we uplift persons, right? And so that is the genesis of where all of this has come from, and it's just materialized into this particular initiative, as well as others that have come before it.
Ms. Clarke, how do you see that impacting overall the objective to help persons to navigate this inflation period that we are currently going through in terms of rising costs?
Oh, certainly. We've already received calls from persons that, it is a blessing to many. Again, these situations is not something that is unique to St. Kitts and Nevis. All across the world, persons are getting so. There's a old saying there's a feeling that, January has 72 days in the month. It's one of the longest months for Kittitians because we all go a little overboard in December and then have to turn the new year to ice. So being able to have a cushion, an investment, a boost to their wallet, whereby now persons can make different decisions. It's not an end-all, be-all, it is a program specific for things, but the monies you would have spent on your utilities, you would have spent on your food, you can now use from your personal budget to do other things that you might have been putting off. And we hope they are things that rebound to the same genesis of being empowering and transformational, not just wasting it because you now have extra funds there. And we also look at it how it is tied to our other development goals. So we know we have health indicators to meet. So if you're a person that has been putting off changing your diet because the doctor said no more bread, no more cheese, and you're like, oh, the alternatives are so expensive. Now with this budget boost, we have a 6 months window to try it out and then be able to adjust yourself, because some persons cannot make changes as easily because their budget is almost fixed or tied. Now there's some space you can be able to do so, but whatever you do now, please set yourself up to rebound after.
Capsec, I want to touch on that point a bit because, of course, there are some persons who were questioning why was it tied to the limited in terms of that you're able to use it for groceries and we are able to use it for, and we'll talk a bit about that as well too. But the impact of that rather than giving cash,
Yes.
talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, our country of St. Kitts and Nevis is a blessed country. Let me say that. And I always ask people to look at, without comparing per se, their neighboring countries or even other countries outside of the region as to what governments try to do to alleviate certain burdens of our people. And we are very blessed in the sense that over the years, many administrations have come and gone and have just given cash, payments, cash handouts for various reasons. And we want to sort of trend away from that. We are about, yes, uplifting and empowering, but we don't feel that just giving cash is something that serves persons in the long term, right? It's a short-term fix. And while this program is giving cash digitally, we felt that if we put some sort of conditions and make sure that the funds, one, stay local and not go overseas to some online shopping sites and those sort of things, that it can, one, stimulate the economy while at the same time reducing the financial burden on individuals as well as the households that they reside in. And so placing some conditions like not purchasing alcohol and tobacco products, for example, one, helps hopefully temper our health bill because persons would have to go to the hospital and so on for various reasons if associated with those products. Things like cosmetics, which are not essential. You don't need cosmetics to survive, per se, right? Even though some persons maybe don't want to leave the house with a little makeup on their face, you can survive still without it. And dealing with essential things, food, water, electricity. So you can pay your electricity bill, your water bill, housing. You might have been back on your mortgage payments to the NHC or to the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. And you can say, you know what, let me get back up to date and get rid of some of those areas. And we feel that food, water, electricity, housing, those are essential things that you cannot live without. And so we use a targeted approach for this particular program instead of saying, like we did, for example, in Independence, which was a joyous occasion, Independence 40, and we said, hey, everybody gets a gift. This one is some support, some assistance that we feel would be beneficial to you in the long run, and we hope that persons view it that way. And that's why we have put some conditions on this one.
Ms. Clarke?
Yes, certainly. I believe that the conditions are worthwhile because you definitely want to be able to focus on basic needs. I'm a social worker, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs says it is housing, shelter, clothing. We don't normally buy, preferences is not to buy local clothing, so that's why that one was off the list. But I think streamlining within that is a valuable point that, again, sets those persons for better. The healthier you are, the better you're able to do so. Your electricity and water, basic for anything you want to do in your household, and then again, bring in relief in housing.
And there is that belief that some persons have that when it comes to electricity, to water, to service charges by the government, that they are less lenient, I should say, in terms of coming forward and paying it, because they're saying it's government, and government, you take it for granted.
Yes.
To do that with a private company, say one of the telecommunication subscribers, then certainly there's a penalty for that, and persons must be responsible, ensuring that they pay their bills in order for the companies to function, whether it is public sector or private sector.
And that's critically important, because you want to go home and turn on your light switch and get light, plug in something, get your phone charged. And if you, in the same breath, don't want to pay an electricity bill or pay a water bill, but want to receive quality service and want your water to be on and so on, then there's a bit of disconnect there. So we really hope with this particular program and the fact that you're allowed to pay utilities, in particular water and electricity, that people will take the onus upon themselves to do so. I know food will probably be one of the main things, but we do hope if persons are in a position to pay their bills, they can do that and then use the money that they may have had to use for that electricity to do some other things in terms of food and so on.
And I'll just make a quick plug for the National Housing Corporation. Of course,
yes,
the general manager and the minister responsible has always said that they would need persons to meet their obligations so that they can continue to provide housing for persons to benefit as well to fund the programs. So, Ms. Clarke, as we mentioned, in terms of the individuals rather than households, there is a possibility where there can be persons, they say 3 persons who are eligible within a household. That's $750 for 6 months. That would be a big help.
Certainly. And we want to promote communal living, where, there's always the stories that persons tell that once you get employed, your mother or your grandmother slaps the first bill on and says, that's yours. Now it's time to collaborate and have that same value return to household management. I'm going to do this one, I'm going to do that one, so it sets us up better for later. Because maybe there were health expenses or educational expenses related to a child that might have influenced a mother's decision. Okay, well, SKNIS would never cut me off, so they don't pay them much, but now the child is back, has a job, or is setting themselves up, or that child is at the stage of needing regular internet access for work, for schooling. Make those investments to set you up for something better. So yes, it is individual, not household, so that the together, the multiplier effect of the monetary value and the investments can rebound better, not just for the state, but for every individual in a household.
A critical thing that must be discussed is, say with the LIFT program, there is of course up to that condition that is set. Now, if an individual, and we're using here now for the BBW, is earning say $4,900 per month, and we said that the threshold is $5,000 per month, and they receive, will they receive, the full $250 under this program, or will they receive the balance to bring the threshold up?
No, they receive the full $250. There is no scaled or tiered approach in the Budget Boost wallet. And conversely, if you are unfortunately $5,000.10, unfortunately you do not qualify. Because I've had questions like that, but it's like under $1. Unfortunately.
Okay, we're going to take our next break. We're up against the clock for that, and so we'll take our break, and then we'll come back and have more discussion and speak a bit about the registration process, which is now live. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more In Focus.
If you go to SKNIS and you say, my bill is $120 and I want to pay my SKNIS bill, you don't have to lose all of your $250 for that month. And it will back up. You can say, man, I can use $200 this month, let's $50 go over to the next month, so I got $300 there. You use it like cash, except you wouldn't have the cash in your hand, and you would use it. So you cannot use it for alcohol, cannot use it for tobacco, or you cannot use it for, some cosmetic things. We want it to be used for essential things, your bills, your groceries, and so forth. And so what that would allow you to do is to save on all of these things, and then the money you have, you can use it for food to help to manage your buying of food.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion with Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natta and Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, Azilla Clarke, and we are discussing the Budget Boost Wallet initiative. So as we mentioned, registration is live. How can that be done?
Yes, so we are aware that the program officially launched about 3:30 on Saturday, January 11th. Prior to that, there were a few sites and links that were circulating and which persons forwarded around, and most persons took the opportunity to register. That information does not transfer. So persons need to utilize the approved link of budgetboostwallet.jad.cash. When you go on, it will ask if you're registering as an individual or as a business. You click individual, and then it takes you to ask certain questions where the site already has information on you because you have a previous wallet or your information has been forwarded. You confirm that information. Then you submit your application. At that stage, you will then receive an email with your username and a password, which then you access the JAD Cash application with. Many persons right after applying are accessing the JAD wallet, and it will tell them, well, your account is invalid or not known. That is because you've not signed in with the username and temporary password provided. So it's not once you finish in one, then you go on to the next. You can download the app because you will need it, but you have to get that email first to be able to do so. There are persons that have had JAD wallets before and have like business accounts. It has to be a personal email address. It has to be an email address that you alone have access to. So if you had, for example, in the back to school initiative, you gave your grandmother has custody of the children, and so you use your email address for her to utilize, and now each of you qualify for the budget boost. Again, call our ministry. We're able to edit so as to release that email to you, and so that the next person can then sign up using their own credentials. But yes, easy online registration, open now. Previous apps do not, applications and addresses do not apply. Go in and register. If you have any challenges, our ministry staff is available, as well as the JAD representatives.
And we do have a video of the website, what it looks like, and perhaps the technicians can roll that now. But CABSEC, it's important as they look at that video and to see what the website looks like, that the government protects itself against phishing. Of course, it is something that is becoming very popular now, especially with AI. There are persons who seek to develop these apps to sort of trick persons, or these partner websites that would have received a notification from one of the local banks as well to warning against such. Tell us a bit about how the government is doing to protect against these things.
Yeah, so our partners, JAD in particular, their platform is extremely secure. This is something they've been building for, I'm sure, a decade or more. And again, being governed here in St. Kitts and Nevis by our various laws and regulations, they're governed again by ECCB, our Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, our Financial Services Regulatory Commission. They have built in already in the platform how they're going to treat with anybody who tries to do something nefarious. So that's already built in. And JAD in particular is not seeing a lot of information anyway. They're just seeing your social security number, your name, and just verifying. They don't know how much money you're making. They don't know where you live. None of these things are being held by JAD and so forth. So it's quite secure. And as you rightly said, we live in an age where persons will always try things, and we have our safeguards internally that will deal with that.
Okay. Ms. Clarke, how is the registration process going? Are you able to say at this point?
I can maybe jump in on that. I just got some numbers as I was heading to the ZIZ studios, that we have approximately 15,000 persons registered already. And from our initial numbers with our other partner, which is the Social Security Board, who gave us the number of eligible workers for this program, they were anticipating just over 22,000 persons. And so if we're already at 15,000, that means we're well on our way of capturing those persons who are eligible to receive the boost. And just to say that 22,000 persons, our population is 55,000 on a good day maybe, right? And if we're capturing 22,000 plus persons, I'm sure that is well over 50% of the working population, because not all of the 55,000 people work, of course. So I'm sure we're well over impacting positively well over 50% of the working population, and that will trickle down, I'm sure, to persons who have children and who are guardians to children and so on. So it's definitely going to make a positive impact here.
Right, and that's actually one of the questions that I had mentioned as well too, because of course last year at the close of our program we ended with the Ministry of Sustainable Development. Then, the Minister, the Honorable Dr. Joyal Clarke, was on the program. We spoke a bit about the census and the type of information that is gleaned, and that is the type of importance of having like a census.
Correct.
Having this information captured where it can help to inform policymakers, to help to assist Ms. Clarke in terms of designing programs that are necessary to help.
Yes, I know Kittians are not, we call them, they're survey tired. However, there's a value to participating in key data collection programs, the census, the labor market survey, or enhanced country poverty assessment, because it's through these that we're able to give proactive numbers to policymakers and programs so that we can, one, budget appropriately, but also measure for impact and reach. And so we cannot stress enough the value of participating in the census. If you were never enumerated, indicating that, because with, we'll use just St. Peter's as an example. It's now a whole parish that is one of the speediest developed areas in St. Kitts and Nevis. So when you look at schooling numbers, healthcare numbers, roads numbers, it's impactful to know who all live there, their ages, so you know within a 10-year span of a census what kind of demographic changes you will have, so that you will know how to allocate resources. So you will know how to put development plans in place for that. And so we always encourage persons to participate in these endeavors, because again, you're squabbed. So when I see numbers, I don't know, I can't match to your name to know that you live in that street, but we know numbers. So when developments come on stream, water, electricity, all these utilities can then make plans to expand throughout. So yes, data drives the world, and we encourage persons to participate actively in those initiatives.
Maybe I can just add to what Permanent Secretary Azilla is saying, and she can probably articulate this better than me as well. But even with our social programs, what we have not necessarily done well in the past is evaluate the programs and the impact. And so as we have been doing these programs since this administration has been in since August 2022, what we are doing as well is gathering that data and looking and see, are these programs that we are doing impacting people? Because in the right way. So it's nice for the cabinet to sit and we evaluate things and we use data, yes, and so forth, but then what is the follow-up to that? So even with this Budget Boost Wallet program, the data that we'll be able to gather in terms of the ministry gathering that data, they can look at the demographic of the persons who are accessing this particular initiative, their ages, their gender, where they live. So maybe when we have to do something else, maybe on a smaller level, maybe not on a national level, P.S. Clarke's office can say, in this particular area, when we looked at those social programs, these people access this. And you know what, they bought a lot of groceries and so forth. So maybe we need to target, maybe we need to put some more, have a little agro strip there too, maybe in that area. Maybe we need to look at how many shops are in that area providing groceries, food, and so on. So we are utilizing the data from these programs, whether it's social assistance programs or temporary financial programs like this one, to build on when we are ready to do other programs, which inevitably will arise where we have to do some assistance again. Right,
it drives policy essentially.
Definitely.
Right. Ms. Clarke, registration assistance to persons who may be unable to understand, or they're just maybe not savvy with technology.
Yes, because I even had My brother called me this morning to say he didn't really trust the program, and I said, "You didn't trust your sister." But when he got his disbursement, he was like, "Yes, I'm with it now. I'm your best marketing tool." So we want to encourage persons that are not. Some persons don't trust technology still, and it's their right to do so. Our department and ministry, the Department of Community Development and Social Services, has satellite offices in each of the 8 electoral districts, which we marry for our assignments. So, unfortunately, we are working on assignments for Sandy Point, and in District 3, they go to the Limekeel office upstairs, Antioch Baptist. But at our community centers, we have officers who should be there from 8:30 to 4 o'clock daily to lend assistance to help persons to register. The telephone numbers that are circulated are answerable at least an hour after closing hours to provide persons access to information. And of course, we have a email address, which those that trust technology and are willing to email us can get a response as well. But we have become a fait with the approach of making ourselves available to the public, and so our community centers, and we should shortly have the numbers and locations of those. We got in another program, we got asked about St. Peter's, which again, a growing parish. So we're making provisions to place an officer at the St. Peter's Community Center to be able to be accessible to persons, because again, all services and information should not reside in the capital. Persons should have access to it close to where they live. And that's our approach that we're using at this time.
The Cabinet Secretary spoke about 15,000 persons already registering for the BBW. Is there a cap on registration?
There's no cap. There's no cap. As you can appreciate, the numbers may ebb and flow. On a program earlier this morning, Permanent Secretary Azilla mentioned that someone called or emailed her office and said that they recently got a promotion, and so now they're making above the $5,000, so they don't need that assistance, and so kindly, delete their registration. So there will be those aspects. On the other side of it, of course, someone may unfortunately lose their job for some reason, and now may need to access this particular support. So the numbers may rise and fall, as the case may be, but we don't see it going significantly beyond the 22,000, 23,000 maybe, in terms of the persons who are going to be able to access this particular program.
In the case that you just mentioned of someone who may have lost their job and is now eligible, is it, say they lose their job, let's say in March.
Yes.
Will they be able to qualify for February and January payment, or does it have to be up to date? So it will begin at March.
Right. It would begin in the month that you apply for it. So right now, the persons who are eligible, we are encouraging them to apply by the 30th of January, so that by the 31st, if you do it 11:59 p.m. on the 30th of January, rest assured you will get your funds on the 31st of January. But subsequently, then in February, if somebody registers in February, the payment will begin in February. We won't do retroactive payments.
On my way here, actually, someone asked me about the qualification of someone who may be eligible, and they were currently not included in that, and it would be a university student, a returning university student, actually, who have been away for a number of years, and they're back now, and they're actually searching for a job. So they would not have made a contribution to Social Security within that time period. So they are not able to benefit from this particular program.
Yes, and I mean, we can appreciate that, right? But as with all programs, I'm also leading on Aspire, for example. I would love to go back and be a part of the Aspire program. And so we understand there are going to be some nuances there. But I want to say, especially since you said it's a university student, I do hope they get a job pretty soon. But P.S. Clarke, again, would intimate that her ministry is available to offer support in certain areas. So there are other opportunities for support that person may be able to qualify for. So I would encourage them to maybe reach out to the ministry if they need some support in some other way as well.
Now, P.S. Clarke, you also mentioned that JAD was used previously, the independence reset, the school, back to school voucher program.
Yeah.
Talk to us a bit about that relationship. And Capsec, you can jump in as well too, in terms of JAD and the government, that partnership that exists there.
Certainly. Since assuming office, the Prime Minister has challenged the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs to introduce some less stigmatizing and discriminating ways of distributing our public assistance. Our primary, one of our focal point ones was our food voucher. At supermarkets, they have to stand in a particular line. Everybody can identify them. They have to sign the list to say that they got their food. And he didn't like that at all. We didn't like it at all. And so the challenge was the directive was for us to find other ways to do so. So at the time, we engaged with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Dcash system. However, they took that offline. For development purposes, they wanted to enhance its offerings. Then we engaged with the National Bank about a card, because if we understand the impetus is that if the state is ever to issue additional programs, they want an easy way to make the funds available to the population. So if there's a card that each person gets in whatever stage of life you are and you have to access programs, then the funds will be deposited there. We're still in discussions with National Bank about that arrangement, but in time for the Back to School initiative, JAD Cash approached and said, but wait, we are a digital payment option. We have a history and a performance in this realm. How about you, can maybe offer ourselves as a payment opportunity? And it worked wonderfully. We understand at that time, persons were not as familiar with the digital payment options, so we had some, but owing to the performance of the Back to School initiative, where persons were able to, at the approved vendors, do the QR code matching and then be able to have theirs. It's almost as simple as when we don't normally see it on this side as a purchaser, but when the person swipes your card and puts in the number, it communicates and then you see your money go off immediately. Instead of a machine now, it's a QR code that does that by interfacing. So it's just the evolution of technology. But owing to the success of that, we did that, and then we tried them again with one of our other programs, our school uniform assistance program, and again worked wonderfully. So as we build confidence and experience with a vendor, we are able to do so. It's not exclusivity. If persons have other platforms, they are free to submit prospectus to the ministry and cabinet for explorations, because we love to support local, we love to support ingenuity and creativity and ways to streamline and make work and just the experience better and easier for the public.
And the best practices, of course, are important. And I like the point that you made in terms of the exclusivity, because you mentioned that JAD approached the ministry. Of course, there are companies out there with services that should feel open and free to approach to sell themselves. This is not an age where you sit around in a corner and you hope somebody sees you. You must go out there, you must market yourself. If you have something that is available right now and fits within the scope of whatever project that government or private sector or individual is looking for, it's the onus is on you to go out and seek business. And Capsec, with that, I'll ask you about the partnership with JAD and other digital transformational projects that the government is considering. How does it fit in? Because Ms. Clarke just made an important point in terms of ensuring that person's information is kept private and that they're not discriminated against. How does these collaborations and the move towards technology by this government fit into the digital transformation strategy and also the development of a sustainable island state?
I mean, it's critically important. The Prime Minister, I think from day one, has said he wants to streamline a lot of the processes that have been very manual, especially in the government. He's spoken about extensively an e-government, where you can stay at your home or in your office, wherever, and access certain critical services. Get your birth certificate, apply for that instead of going down, somebody looking through a bunch of books and old files. Revolutionizing how we operate in government especially. We have seen some tremendous strides, and our kind of vanguard example is our Inland Revenue Department, where you can pay almost all of your taxes online. You can get your driver's license renewed online. You can pay your property tax online. Businesses are now able to do a lot of their work with Inland Revenue online, where you don't have to go and stand in a line. And if you have to go to Inland Revenue and stand in a line, it's mainly just to collect something, to go and collect your tag for your vehicle, because you did everything online. All you're doing is collecting the tag. And so that's what we want to move to. Minister Connors made that, for example, as Minister of ICT, is working on a digital ID, national ID for everyone. So once you have that digital ID, you go somewhere, you can access all of the services. They can see the relevant information. You go to the hospital, they can see your medical information. You go to somewhere else, they're able to see just that information that they need, and you move through quickly. So it's a whole electronic and digital environment that we're trying to create here in St. Kitts and Nevis, which will, one, lower costs, which will be convenient for people, less headaches. You know, it will improve people's health, I think, as well, just for the fact that you don't have to drive and find parking and then walk somewhere and stand in the hot sun, you know, those sort of things. So I think the Prime Minister has set this agenda for us in terms of the Sustainable Island State agenda, and us as a government providing services, e-services, is a critical part of achieving that agenda.
Now, the BBW, as you mentioned, the funds that is provided monthly is $250. But there was some concern that, or should I say a question, that persons would have to use that money, all of the funds, within a specific period of time. Talk to us about that.
No, so, well, short answer is no. No, you do not have to utilize all of the funds each month. You also do not have to use the funds at only one vendor, one shop, one supermarket, and the funds will roll over each month. So if you only spend, for example, in January, you only spent $150, that $100 will roll over into your wallet for February, so your wallet in February will start with $350. And if it so happens you go all the way down to June and you still have $1,500 in your wallet for whatever reason, those funds will not expire on June 30th. They will stay in your wallet. The same conditions will apply, that you spend it at the local vendors that are part of the program, but those funds will not expire. You'll use those funds until you get to a balance of zero, and the wallet will remain there for any future use.
But it's important, Ms. Clarke, for those who do have that bill that they need to pay or the food that they need to buy, that they go and make use of the funds, not that they hoard it.
Correct.
They must use it for what it's intended to do.
Correct. It's a boost for you. So, and I like the point, the name is always, because we also want to encourage persons to do their monthly budgeting. Do you actually know what it costs monthly for you to live the way that you live? And so when you have your birthday, if you want to participate in carnival, you want to do VVIP for music festival, you plan for those things and then you adjust yourself accordingly. So yes, utilize the funds as you see fit. There's no pressure. There should be no vendor that's telling you you must use all of it with me. So if you shop around like all of us good people do, and you buy a little by horse first, a little by X and a little by Z, shop as the needs be. If you're saving it for a major investment for you, then yes, be purposeful in that as well. But remember, there are spill-off and spin-over effects of this investment that we want to see multiply and rebound, not just for the individuals, for households, but also for the Federation as a whole.
There are widespread reports of persons' JAD wallet being successfully funded with $250. Are the funds available to spend now, or is there a waiting period that they have to?
Yes, the funds are available to spend right now. Whatever is in your wallet, just like if it's in your physical wallet, you are free to spend it. I can tell you, we never gave a start date for the program. We did say we would start in January, but we didn't give an exact date. And that was a bit on purpose. One, because we wanted to make sure we worked out all of the kinks. Needless to say, you don't want to give a date and then you still have all sorts of things to work out and you run into issues. But internally, our intention was by the middle of January. As Ms. Clarke mentioned, persons always feel like January is the longest month of the year, like payday will never come, and so forth. And so the Prime Minister in particular gave us the mandate to ensure that we started by the middle of January so that persons can get that relief a lot quicker, because of the fact that, January, coming off of the Christmas carnival season, always seems like a long month where it's a little bit dry in your pockets. So we intended to do it And with a lot of collaboration, a lot of hard work with all the stakeholders involved, we're able to start. The initial payments have started today, and I think there's a little buzz in the country, and persons are spreading the word that their digital wallets have been activated and have been funded.
But it's important to mention, if you don't receive that fund that is transferred to your wallet today, just wait, just be patient. It will take some time, Ms. Clarke.
Yes, it's rolling every day. Now that the funds are there, it is rolling every day. So as you sign up, I'm not going to say in the same day, but in short order you will get. So it's not that if you didn't get on the 15th, you're not going to get for the month at all. It will be added to your Budget Boost wallet once verifications have been made that you are eligible and that your registration has gone through correctly. That's why we encourage persons to take your time, put in your correct numbers, correct email addresses, because the delays are really errors that persons make. All right, and so once you've taken your time, the funds will be deposited all the way up to the 31st of January, and then we have the next disbursement in February. So please trust the system. Your colleagues and friends are telling you, I got mine. We already received the calls from persons, but I helped 6 persons and I haven't gotten. Did you use the correct registration site? Did you do everything correctly? So we're helping persons to make sure that they can also benefit as speedily as possible from the assistance.
Right, and again, it will be rolled out over a period of time. Now, in terms of the persons who are able to receive the funding, we mentioned it, you said supermarkets. Maybe we should go through the list once again, just to be clear. If you could start, Ms. Clarke.
Certainly. So it is supermarkets, and the JAD website, the Budget Boost as well as JAD website will have the list of approved persons, because the list is being built as we speak, because we're having engagements with community shops and others to come on board. So it's grocery stores on St. Kitts and on Nevis. It is utility water companies, the Water Services Department St. Kitts, Water Services Department Nevis, NEVLEC and SKNIS, NHC, and the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation there.
And I just want to emphasize and maybe re-emphasize that this is not about just big businesses, big supermarkets. We are actively engaging our mom and pop shops, as we like to call them, the village shops. So Bevis in St. Paul's, you can go there, Judith in Panspasha, Newtown, you can go there and utilize your digital wallet. We want to make it accessible to everyone. So Nevis, St. Kitts, your village shops, like I say, you don't have to feel like you live in Dieppe, or you have to come all the way to a large supermarket in Bastia to make a purchase. So I just want to make that pellucid, because we have seen some chatter on social media already that is saying that our small shops or our village shops and so on are excluded, and I want to definitively say that is incorrect and that we are actively engaging them, so much so that we are also going to be engaging persons in the public market who are selling their produce, persons on the agro strip up at Panspasha who are selling their produce as well, to be a part of it. Because as the permanent secretary said, it's a cell phone to cell phone transaction, right? They don't need to have a computer out on the agro strip. They just need a cell phone, and everybody has their cell phone, and you're able to make that transaction. So I just wanted to make it clear that we are casting the net wide with this program to have as many vendors as possible.
You actually just touched on my next question in terms of the vendors. If someone is interested in their business or an individual offering a service, they're interested to be a part of this program in terms of offering their service that it can be funded through the JAD. How can that be done?
Certainly. The same website, budgetboostwallet.jad.cash, has 2 opportunities for registration, both as an individual or as a business, and they should go there. However, they should really call JAD Cash first and have a conversation, because they would need to have information about your POS system and how you operate
That
your
will point
business.
of sale, POS.
Yes, right. And so how you do your business in that regard, and then be able to fashion it from there. The JAD contact numbers are 661-5237 or 660-5237. But have a conversation with them. We're working on St. Kitts or community development officers and on Nevis to be able to assist with the recruitment of the community shops, hold the orientation with JAD Cash, have persons be present to ask the questions they need, facilitate their registration, and then once their registration is complete, transactions can begin shortly thereafter.
And again, JAD has been in business long before the government engaged their services, and so that would be a good way for us to, as we talk about the plastic, moving away from the no cash environment where you're able to just do things much easily. You're going to your store, you just put it there and you pay rather than getting a card, handing it to a cashier, or getting cash, walking around with cash. It's a lot easier, it's a lot more seamless, and it's basically done in most of the countries overseas in any case. And so,
and it's safer.
Right.
I'm a single mother. In my position, people have the misconception that I'm walking around with all of the government social assistance money in my purse. So if you happen to pull the purse, I don't have a problem, because it is all cash. I do not carry cash. It is seamless. I love more banking and all of those features where I can pay peers, I can pay businesses, I can, at 2 o'clock in the morning, if I forget to pay, I can be right there as opposed to waiting in the line. So I know it's a transition for many, but if anybody has traveled anywhere or even had the benefit of doing all your businesses online, you will see the value of it and have trust in the structures both of the company and of their regulatory agencies to understand that your data is protected. Right,
and I also would want to make a bit of a plug. I encourage busmen in particular, those who provide public transportation. Persons have been talking about that, and they say, of course, there is that thing, pay as you enter. This would be a nice way to facilitate that. You don't have to necessarily hold up the process.
Yes, and jingling with your change for the $3.
That's right. Okay, as we are running out of time, I just have to ask, as we mentioned, of course, it's a social assistance program. The BBW is a social assistance program that the government is providing to our citizens. Now, as we go back to the budget, it was announced by the Prime Minister that some $320 million was spent in the past 2 years to assist citizens in St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of social programs and helping to limit the impact of inflation. You're talking about programs such as LIFT, such as STEP, and of course Miss Clarke will have you back sometime to discuss LIFT and update it there. Elevate, the tuition for CFBC, of course, it's free for students to register. The petrol subsidy, the fuel subsidy at SKNIS. And also there's fees for covering early childhood education. Most persons may not be aware, if you don't have a child, that the government is really subsidizing a lot there. So with the significant investments being made now in social safety net programs, how is the government assessing, Ms. Clarke, the effectiveness of these measures in terms of reducing poverty and improving the standard of living for persons in St. Kitts and Nevis?
Certainly. We definitely rely on our donor agencies. UNICEF has conducted, at one point we had the MEND program. UNICEF did an actual program evaluation of that, and that information has helped to craft some of the revisions from PAP to LIFT. Because again, best practices are industry-wide and we can do so. We're also building our internal capacity to conduct the monitoring and evaluation of programs to do so. Data is critical. We're supposed to be completing the enhanced country poverty assessment, which again allows us to clearly define the vulnerabilities, because remember, poverty has moved away from just a money value to vulnerabilities. If you have national standards in health education, so if you say to graduate you need 5 subjects, persons beneath that are vulnerable in education, and we can make programs to be able to advance. I think in the public service at one point, if you didn't have the subjects, you tested out of math and English and you could get appointed. So these are specialty areas that are within there. So yes, with information, we're able to do so, and building our capacity within our ministry and in stakeholders such as economic planning and sustainable development to help us to do these program evaluations and build not only just the data, but also the best practices to continue to do so.
Right, data collection, again, the importance of it. So we have about 1 minute, 30 seconds left. Capsec, final comments from you?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you again for having us on and being your first guest for the new year. I hope the program and the information was positive and well received by the listeners and the viewers. I maybe want to take it from this angle. So in St. Kitts and Nevis, we're a large ocean state, a small island developing state, and climate change is having some negative impacts on us. And what has that caused? That has caused us to build some seawalls, try to mitigate a lot of the issues that happen and adapt actually to what is happening to shorelines going on, the single-use plastic ban, and those sort of things, those policies. And so now we're in another fight as well, which is an economic, financial fight with global inflation. And so again, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration, has to come up to speed with that fight. So just like we're fighting the effects of climate change on the environment, we are here now trying to shield our citizens from a lot of the effects of global inflation that we have and they have caused in Norway, right? And so this is a particular initiative. It's a temporary initiative, and with what we have planned to roll out, and the Prime Minister alluded to this in his address as well, to roll out in terms of our capital projects and other initiatives between now and June. And the fact that we see that global inflation is trending downwards a little bit, and we hope it stays that way. We really believe that by June we can say that we're in a better position, and maybe we don't have to do any further initiatives, and the persons are in a much better place. And we believe that this particular project will certainly give a boost, and pun is intended there. We really believe it will give a boost to the wallets and to the budgets of our people and the households that will benefit from this, because like we said, there are many individuals in communal households. We hope that would give them a lift. And we also ask that us as persons, individuals, we take the onus upon ourselves as well. Maybe look at our spending habits, maybe not go for the brand name cereal here and there when we can, and we kind of look at how we consume and be a little wiser and a little bit more prudent while still the government is willing to support. We have our part to play, and I will certainly try to play my part as well, and try to save a few dollars here and there how I spend. Yeah.
Right. Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natta, Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Gender Affairs, Azilla Clarke. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of InFocus, and maybe we can have another chat in the next 6 months to evaluate the impact of it and see what the next steps are. And CAPSEC, I'm sure you'll be back, as we mentioned, Aspire, and there are a number of committees that you'll be heading as well, and so we certainly want to update the public about those as well.
Certainly.
We'd like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition, the season debut of InFocus. We trust that you will join us next week at the same place, at the same time, for another edition of InFocus, your government, your business. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.